Hey everyone, ExogDan here. In this video, I'm going to go over the history of Christmas. So without further ado, let's jump into the history of Christmas. The nativity sequences included the Gospels of Matthew and Luke, prompted early Christian writers to suggest various dates for the anniversary. Although no date is indicated in the Gospels, early Christians connected Jesus to the Son through the use of such phrases as Son of Righteousness. The Romans marked the winter solstice on December 25th. The first recorded Christmas celebration was in Rome on December 25th AD 336. In the 3rd century, the date of the Nativity was the subject of great interest. Around AD 200, Clement of Alexandria wrote, "There are those who have determined not only the year of our Lord's birth, but also the day. And they say that it took place in the 28th year of Augustus and in the 25th day of the Egyptian month Bashan, May 20th. Further, others say he was born on the 24th or 25th of Pharmathus, April 20th or 21st. Various factors contributed to the selection of December 25th as a date of celebration. It was the date of the winter solstice on the Roman calendar, and it was 9 months after March 25th, the date of the vernal equinox, and a date linked to the conception of Jesus celebrated at the Feast of the Annunciation. Christmas played a role in the Arian controversy of the 4th century. After this controversy ran its course, the prominence of the holiday declined for a few centuries. The feast regained prominence after 800 when Charlemagne was crowned emperor on Christmas Day. In Persian England, Christmas was banned due to being associated with drunkenness and other misbehavior. It was restored as a legal holiday in England 1660, but remained disreputable in the minds of many people. In the early 19th century, Christmas festivities and services became widespread with the rise of the Oxford movement in the Church of England that emphasized the centrality of Christmas in Christianity and charity to the poor, along with Washington Irving, Charles Dickens, and other authors emphasizing family, children, kind-heartedness, gift-giving, and Santa Claus for Irving or Father Christmas for Dickens. Introduction. Christmas does not appear on the list of festivals given by the early Christian writers Irenaeus and Tertullian. Origen and Arnobius fault the pagans for celebrating birthdays, which suggests that Christmas was not celebrated in their time. Arnobius wrote after AD 297. The chronograph of 354 records that a Christmas celebration took place in Rome 8 days before the calends of January. This section was written in AD 336, during the brief pontificate of Pope Mark. In the East, the birth of Jesus was celebrated in connection with the Epiphany on January 6th. This holiday was not primarily about the Nativity, but rather the baptism of Jesus. Christmas was promoted in the East part of the revival of Orthodox Christianity that followed the death of the pro-Arian Emperor Valens at the Battle of Adrianople in 378. The feast was introduced in Constantinople in 379, in Antioch by John Chrysostom towards the end of the 4th century, probably in 388, and in Alexandria the following century. Solstice date. December 25th was the date of the winter solstice in the Roman calendar. A late 4th century sermon by St. Augustine explains why this was a fitting date to celebrate Christ's nativity. Hence it is that he was born on the day which is the shortest in our early earthly reckoning, and from which subsequent days begin to increase in length. He, therefore, who bent low and lifted us up, chose the shortest day, yet the one whence light begins to increase. Linking Jesus to the Son was supported by various biblical passages. Jesus was considered to be the Son of Righteousness, prophesied by Malachi. Unto you shall the Son of Righteousness arise, and healing is in his wings. Such solar symbolism could support more than one date of birth. An anonymous work known as De Pascha Comitatus 243 linked the idea that curation began at the spring equinox on March 25th with the conception or birth. The word Nascor can mean either of Jesus on March 28th, the day of the creation of the sun on the Genesis account. One translation reads, "Oh, the splendid and divine providence of the Lord, that on that day, the very day on which the sun was made, March 28th, a Wednesday, Christ should be born." In the 17th century, Isaac Newton, who coincidentally was born on December 25th, argued that the date of Christmas may have been selected to correspond with the solstice. Conversely, according to Stephen Heijmans of the University of Alberta, it is cosmic symbolism, which inspired the church leadership in Rome to elect the southern solstice, December 25th, as the birthday of Christ, and the northern solstice as that of John the Baptist, supplemented by the equinoxes as their respective dates of conception. Calculation hypothesis. The calculation hypothesis suggests that an earlier holiday held on March 25th became associated with the Incarnation. Christmas was then calculated as 9 months later. The calculation hypothesis was proposed by French writer Louis Deschanel in 1889. In modern times, March 25th is celebrated as the Annunciation. This holiday was curated in the 7th century and was assigned to a date that is 9 months before Christmas, in addition to being the traditional date of the equinox. It is unrelated to the Quadrodeciman, which had been forgotten by this time. Forgotten by everyone except the Jews, who continued to observe Passover. Also a Quatrodeciman feast. Early Christians celebrated the life of Jesus on a date considered equivalent to 14 Nisan Passover on the local calendar. Because Passover was held on the 14th of the month, this feast is referred to as of the Quatrodeciman. All the major events of Christ's life, especially the Passion, were celebrated on this date. In his letter to the Corinthians, Paul mentions Passover, presumably celebrated according to the local calendar in Corinth. Petrelin, who lived in Latin-speaking North Africa, gives the date of Passion celebration as March 25th. The date of the Passion was moved to Good Friday in 165 when Pope Soter curated Easter by reassigning the resurrection to a Sunday. According to the calculation hypothesis, the celebration of the Quatrodeciman continued in some areas, and the feast became associated with Incarnation. The calculation hypothesis is considered academically to be a thoroughly viable hypothesis, though not certain. It was a traditional Jewish belief that great men were born and died on the same day, so lived a number of years, without fractions. Jesus was therefore considered to have been conceived on March 25th, as he died on March 25th, which was calculated to have coincided with 14 Nisan. A passage in commentary on the prophet Daniel 204 by Hippothylus of Rome identifies December 25th as the date of the Nativity. This passage is generally considered as a late interpolation, but the manuscript includes another passage, one that is more likely to be authentic, that gives the Passion as March 25th. In 221, Sextus Julius Africanus gave March 25th as the day of curation and of the conception of Jesus in his universal history. This conclusion was based on solar symbolism, with March 25th the date of the equinox. As this implies a birth in December, it is sometimes claimed to be the earliest identification of December 25th as the Nativity. However, Africanus was not such an influential writer that is likely he determined the date of Christmas. The treatise De Solstice et Occident de Complex et Navatis Domini de Nostri Jesu Christi et Locen Baptistis Professori, attributed to John Christaman and dating to the early 4th century, also argued that Jesus was conceived and crucified on the same day of the year and calculated this as March 25th. This anonymous tract also states, "But our Lord, too, is born in the month of December, the 8 before the calends of December 25th, but they call it the birthday of the unconquered, who indeed is unconquered as our Lord. Or if they say that it is his birth, or if they say that it is the birthday or the sun, he is the son of justice. History of religious hypothesis. The rival history of religions hypothesis suggests that the church selected December 25th date to appropriate festivities held by the Romans in honor of the sun god Sol Invictus. This cult was established by Aurelian in 274. An explicit expression of this theory appears in an annotation of uncertain date added to the manuscript of a work by 12th century Syrian bishop Jacob bar Salabi. The scribe who added it wrote, "It was a custom of the pagans to celebrate on the same December 25th the birthday of the sun, at which they kindled lights in token of festivity. In these solemnities, the revelries, the Christians also took part. Accordingly, when the doctors of the church perceived that the Christians had a learning to this festival, they took the counsel and resolved that the true nativity should be solemnized on that day." In 1743, German Protestant Paul Ernst Jablonski argued Christmas was placed on December 25th to correspond with the Roman solar holiday Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, and therefore a paganization that debased the true church. However, it has also been argued that, on the contrary, the Emperor Aurelian, who in 274 instituted the holiday of the Dies Natalis Solis Invicti, did so partly as an attempt to give a pagan significance to a date already important for the Christians in Rome. Hermann Usner and others proposed that the Christians chose this day because it was the Roman feast celebrating the birthday of Sol Invictus. Modern scholar S.E. Heijmans, however, states that while they are aware that pagans called this day the birthday of Sol Invictus, this did not concern them, and it did not play any role in their choice of date for Christmas. Moreover, Thomas J. Talley holds that the Roman Emperor Aurelian placed the festival of Sol Invictus on December 25th in order to compete with the growing rate of the Christian Church, which had already been celebrating Christmas on that date. First, in the judgment of the Church of England Lecture Commission, the history of religions hypothesis has been challenged by a view based on an old tradition, according to which the date of Christmas was fixed at 9 months after March 25th, the date of the vernal equinox on which the Annunciation was celebrated. With regard to a December religious feast of the defined sun Sol, as distinct from the solstice feast of the birth or rebirth, the astronomical sun, Heijmans has commented that while the winter solstice on or around December 25th was well established in the Roman imperial calendar, there was no evidence that a religious celebration of Sol on that day antedated the celebration of Christmas. Thomas Talley has shown that although the Emperor Aurelian's dedication of a temple to the sun god in the Campus Martius 274 probably took place on the birthday of the invincible sun on December 25th, the cult of the sun in pagan Rome ironically did not celebrate the winter solstice nor any of the other quarter-tenth days as one might expect. The Oxford Companion to Christian Thought remarks on the uncertainty about the order of precedence between the religious celebrations of the birthday of the unconquered Son and of the birthday of Jesus, stating that the hypothesis that December 25th was chosen for celebrating the birth of Jesus on the bias of the belief his conception occurred on March 25th, potentially establishes December 25th as a Christian festival before Aurelian's decree, which promulgated might have provided for the Christian feast both opportunity and challenge. relation to concurrent celebrations. Many popular customs associated with Christmas developed independently of the commemoration of Jesus' birth, with some claiming that certain elements have origins in pre-Christian festivals that were celebrated by pagan populations who were later converted to Christianity. The prevailing atmosphere of Christmas has no continually evolved since the holiday's inception, ranging from a sometimes vacuous, drunken carnival-like state in the Middle Ages to a tamer, family-oriented, and children-centered theme introduced in a 19th century transformation. The celebration of Christmas was banned on more than one occasion within certain groups such as the Persians and Jehovah's Witnesses, who did not celebrate birthdays in general due to concerns that it was too unbiblical. Prior to and through the early Christian centuries, winter festivals were the most popular of the year in many European pagan cultures. Reasons included the fact that the less agricultural work needed to be done during the winter, as well as an expectation of better weather as spring approached. Celtic winter herbs such as mistletoe and ivy, and the custom kissing under a mistletoe are common in modern Christmas celebrations in the English-speaking countries. The pre-Christian Germanic peoples, including the Anglo-Saxons and the Norse, celebrated winter festival called Yule, held in late December to early January period, yielding English Yule today as a synonym for Christmas. In Germanic language-speaking areas, numerous elements of modern Christmas folk custom iconography may have originated from Yule, including the Yule log, Yule boar, and the Yule goat. Often leading a ghostly procession through the sky, the wild hunt, the long-bearded god Odin is referred to as the Yule One and referred to as Yule beings. On the other hand, as there are no reliable existing references to a Christmas log prior to the 16th century, the burning of the Christmas block may have been an early modern invention by Christians unrelated to the pagan practice. In Eastern Europe, also, old pagans traditions were incorporated into Christmas celebrations, an example being the Kollada, which was incorporated into the Christmas Carol. Post-classical history. In the early Middle Ages, Christmas Day was overshadowed by Epiphany, which in Western Christianity focused on the visit of the Magi, but the medieval calendar was dominated by Christmas-related holidays. The 40 days before Christmas became the 40 days of Saint Martin, which began on November 11th, the feast of Saint Martin of Tours, now known as Advent. In Italy, former Saturnalian traditions were attached to Advent. Around the 12th century, these traditions transferred again to the 12 days of Christmas, December 25th to January 5th, a time that appears in literature calendars as Christmastide or 12 Holy Days. The prominence of Christmas Day increased gradually after Charlemagne was crowned emperor on Christmas Day in 800. King Edmund the Martyr was anointed on Christmas in 855, and King William I of England was crowned on Christmas Day, 1066. By the High Middle Ages, the holiday had become so prominent that chroniclers routinely noted where various magnates celebrated Christmas. King Richard II of England hosted a Christmas feast in 1377, at which 28 oxen and 300 sheep were eaten. The Yule boar was a common feature of medieval Christmas feasts. Caroling also became popular and was originally performed by a group of dancers who sang. The group was composed of a lead singer and a ring of dancers that provided the chorus. Various writers of the time condemned caroling as lewd, indicating the unruly traditions of Saturnalian and Yule may have continued in this form. Misrule, drunkenness, promiscuity, gambling was also an important aspect of the festival. In England, gifts were exchanged on New Year's Day, and there was special Christmas ale. Christmas during the Middle Ages was a public festival that incorporated ivy, holly, and other evergreens. Christmas gift giving during the Middle Ages was unusually between people with legal relationships, such as tenant and landlord. The annual indulgence in eating, dancing, singing, sporting, and card playing escalated in England, and by the 17th century, the Christmas season featured lavish dinners, elaborate masques, and pageants. In 1607, King James I insisted that a play be acted on Christmas night and that the court indulge in games. It was during the Reformation in 16th, 17th century Europe that made Protestants change the gift bringer to the Christ child or Christkindl, and the date of giving gifts changed from December 6th to Christmas Eve. Modern history. Associating it with drunkenness and other misbehavior, the Persians banned Christmas in England in the 17th century. It was restored as a legal holiday in 1660, but remained disreputable. In the early 19th century, the Oxford movement in the Anglican Church ushered in the development of richer and more symbolic forms of worship, the building of the neo-Gothic churches, and the revival and increasing centrality of keeping Christmas itself as a Christian festival, as well as the special charities for the poor, in addition to special services and musical events. Charles Dickens and other writers helped in this revival of the holiday by changing consciousness of Christmas and the way in which it was celebrated, as they emphasized family, religion, gift-giving, and social reconciliation, as opposed to the historic revelry common in some places. 17th and 18th century. Following the Protestant Reformation, many of the new denominations, including the Anglican Church and Lutheran Church, continued to celebrate Christmas. In 1629, the Anglican poet John Milton penned on the morning of Christ's Nativity a poem that has since been read by many during Christmastide. Donald Hines, a professor at California State University, states that Martin Luther inaugurated a period in which Germany would produce a unique culture of Christmas, much copied in North America. Among the congregations of the Dutch Reformed Church, Christmas was celebrated as one of the principal Evangelion feasts. However, in 17th century England, some groups such as the Persians strongly condemned the celebration of Christmas, considering it as a Catholic invention and the trappings of popery or the rags of the beast. In contrast, the established Anglican Church pressed for a more elaborate observance of feasts, potentially seasons, and Saints' Day. The calendar reform became a major point of tension between the Anglican party and the Persian party. The Catholic Church also responded, promoting the festival in a more religiously oriented form. King Charles I of England directed his noblemen and gentry to return to their landed estates midwinter to keep their old-style Christmas generosity. Following the parliamentarian victory over Charles I during the English Civil War, England's Persian rulers banned Christmas in 1647. Protests followed as pro-Christmas rioting broke out in several cities, and for weeks, Canterbury was controlled by the rioters who decorated doorways with holly and shouted royalist slogans. The book The Vindication of Christmas, London 1652, argued against the Persians and makes note of old English Christmas traditions: dinner, roast apples on the fire, card playing, dances with plowboys, and maid servants, old Father Christmas, and carol singing. The restoration of King Charles II in 1660 ended the ban, but many Calgary men still disapproved of Christmas celebration. As such, in Scotland, the Presbyterian Church of Scotland discouraged the observance of Christmas, and though James VI commanded its celebration in 1618, attendance at church was scant. The Parliament of Scotland officially abolished the observance of Christmas in 1640, claiming that the church had been purged of all superstitious observation of days. It was not until 1958 that Christmas again became a Scottish public holiday. Following the restoration of Charles II, Poor Robin's Almanac contained the lines, "Now thanks to God for Charles' return, whose absence made old Christmas mourn, for then we scarcely did it know, whether it Christmas were or no." The Diary of James Woodford from the latter half of the 18th century details the observance of Christmas and celebrations associated with the season over a number of years. In colonial America, the Pilgrims of New England shared the patriarchal disapproval of Christmas. The Plymouth Pilgrims put their loathing for the day into practice in 1620 when they spent their first Christmas day in the New World working, thus demonstrating their complete competence for the day. Non-Persians in New England deplored the loss of the holidays enjoyed by the laboring classes in England. Christmas observance was outlawed in Boston in 1659. The ban by Persians was revoked in 1681 by English Governor Edmund Andros. However, it was not until the mid-19th century that celebrating Christmas became fashionable in the Boston region. At the same time, Christmas residents of Virginia and New York observed the holiday freely. Pennsylvania German settlers, preeminently the Moravian settlers of Bethlehem, Narthis, and Lyndhurst in Pennsylvania, and the Wascove settlements in North Carolina were the enthusiastic celebrators of Christmas. The Moravians in Bethlehem had the first Christmas trees in America, as well as the first nativity scenes. Christmas fell out of favor in the United States after the American Revolution, when it was considered an English custom. George Washington attacked heathen German mercenaries on the day after Christmas during the Battle of Trenton on December 26, 1776, Christmas being much more popular in Germany than in America at this time. With the ascetic cult of reason and power during the era of revolutionary France, Christian Christmas religious services were banned, and the Three Kings cake was renamed the Equality Cake under the Equality Cake under anti-cultural government policies. 19th century. In the UK, Christmas Day became a bank holiday in 1834. Boxing Day, the day after Christmas, was added in 1871. In the early 19th century, writers imagined Tudor Christmas as a time of heartfelt celebration. In 1843, Charles Dickens wrote the novel A Christmas Carol, which helped revive the spirit of Christmas and seasonal merriment. Its instant popularity played a major role in portraying Christmas as a holiday emphasizing family, goodwill, and compassion. Dickens sought to construct Christmas as a family-centered festival, generosity, linking worship and feasting within a context of social reconciliation, superimposing his humanitarian vision of the holiday in what has been termed carol philosophy. Dickens influenced many aspects of Christmas that are celebrated today in Western culture, such as family gatherings, seasonal food and drink, dancing, games, and a festive generosity of spirit. A prominent phrase from the tale Merry Christmas was popularized following the appearance of the story. This coincided with the appearance of the Oxford movement and the growth of Anglo-Catholicism, which led a revival in tradition, rituals, and religious observance. observances. The term Scrooge became a synonym for mither, with bah humbug dismissive of the festive spirit. In 1843, the first commercial Christmas card was produced by Sir Henry Cole. The revival of the Christmas Carol began with William Sandy's Christmas Carols, Ancient and Modern, 1833, with the first appearance in print of the first Noel, I Saw Three Ships, Hark the Herald Angels Sing, and God Rest Ye Merry Gentlemen, popularized in Dickens' A Christmas Carol. In Britain, the Christmas tree introduced in the early 19th century by the German-born Queen Charlotte. In 1832, the future Queen Victoria wrote about her delight at having a Christmas tree hung with lights, ornaments, and presents placed round it. After her marriage to her German cousin Prince Albert, by 1841 the custom became more widespread throughout Britain. An image of the British royal family with their Christmas tree at Windsor Castle created sensation when it was published in the Illustrated London News in 1848. A modified version of this image was published in Godey's Lady's Book, Philadelphia in 1850. By the 1870s, putting up a Christmas tree had become common in America. In America, interest in Christmas had been revived in the 1820s by several short stories by Washington Irving, which appear in his The Sketchbook of Geoffrey Crayon, Gent, and Old Christmas. Irving's story depicted harmonious, warm-hearted English Christmas festivities he experienced while staying in Austin Hall, Birmingham, England, that had largely been abandoned, and he used that tract Vindication of Christmas, 1652, of Old English Christmas traditions that he had transcribed into his journal as a format of his stories. In 1822, Clement Clarke Moore wrote a poem, A Visit from St. Nicholas, popularly known by its first line, "'Twas the night before Christmas." The poem helped popularize the tradition of exchanging gifts, and seasonal Christmas shopping began to assume economic importance. This also started the cultural conflict between the holiday's spiritual significance and its associated commercialism that some see as corrupting the holiday. In her 1850 book, The First Christmas in New England, Harriet Beecher Stowe includes a character who complains that the true meaning of Christmas was lost in a shopping spree. While the celebration of Christmas was not yet customary in some regions in the U.S., Henry Wadsworth Longfellow detected a transition state about Christmas here in New England in 1856. The old Persian feeling prevents it from being cheerful, hearty holiday, though every year makes it more so. In Reading, Pennsylvania, a newspaper remarked in 1861, even our pre-Bishian friends who have steadfastly ignored Christmas, threw open their church doors and assembled in force to celebrate the anniversary of the Savior's birth. The First Congregational Church of Rockford, Illinois, although of genuine Persian stock, was preparing for a grand Christmas jubilee, a news correspondent reported in 1846. By 1860, 14 states, including several from New England, had adopted Christmas as a legal holiday. In 1875, Louis Prang introduced the Christmas card to the Americans. He has been called the father of the American Christmas card. On June 28, 1870, Christmas was formally declared a United States federal holiday. 20th century. During the First World War, and particularly but not exclusively in 1914, a series of informal truces took place for Christmas between opposing armies. The truces, which were organized spontaneously by fighting men, ranged from promises not to shoot shouted at a distance in order to ease the pressure of war for the day to friendly socializing, gift-giving, and even sport between enemies. These incidents became a well-known and semi-mythologized part of popular memory. They have been described as a symbol of common humanity even in the darkest of situations and used to demonstrate to children the ideals of Christmas. Up to the 1950s in the UK, many Christmas customs were restricted to the upper classes and better off families. The mass of the population had not adopted many of the Christmas rituals that later became general. The Christmas tree was rare. Christmas dinner might be beef or goose, certainly not turkey. In their stockings, children might get an apple, orange, and sweets. Full celebration of a family Christmas with all the trimmings only became widespread with increased prosperity from the 1950s. National papers were published on Christmas Day until 1912. Post was still delivered on Christmas Day until 1961. League football matches continued in Scotland until the 1970s, while in England they may ceased at the end of the 1950s. Under the state of seizeism of the Soviet Union after its foundation in 1917, Christmas celebrations, along with other Christian holidays, were prohibited in public. During the 1920s, 30s, and 40s, the League of Militant Atheists encouraged school pupils to campaign against Christmas traditions such as the Christmas tree, as well as other Christian holidays, including Easter. The League established an anti-religious holiday to be the 31st of each month as a replacement. At the height of this persecution, in 1929, on Christmas Day, children in Moscow were encouraged to spit on crucifixes as a protest against the holiday. It was not until the dissolution of the Soviet Union in 1991 that the persecution ended and Orthodox Christmas became a state holiday again for the first time in Russia after 7 decades. European history professor Joseph Perry wrote that likewise in Nazi Germany, because Nazi Angelius saw organized religion as an enemy of the toleration state, propagandists sought to be de-emphasized or eliminate altogether. The Christian aspects of the holiday and the propagandists tirelessly promoted numerous Nazified Christmas songs which replaced Christmas themes with the reggae racial indigenous. As Christmas celebrations began to be held around the world, even outside traditional Christian cultures in the 20th century, some Muslim-majority countries subsequently banned the practice of Christmas, claiming it undermines Islam. And there's the history of Christmas. I sure hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys have time to enjoy this video, please make sure to hit the like button. And also don't forget to subscribe because I do videos every single day. And also don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell on my second channel. My second channel will be the third link in the description below. And if you guys would like to send me fan art, you guys can send me fan art on my Instagram. And you can also follow me on Instagram as well. My Instagram will be the second link in the description below. And if you guys would like to join my Roblox fan group, my Roblox fan group will be the first link in the description below. And if you guys would like to follow me on Twitter, my Twitter will be the fourth link in the description below. And if you guys would like to follow me on Reddit, my Reddit will be the fifth link in the description below. And if you guys would like to follow me on TikTok, my TikTok will be the sixth link in the description below. And if you guys would like to check out my Facebook page, my Facebook page will be the seventh link in the description below. And until then, I will see you guys in the next one. Goodbye!